Indrashekhar Singh, agricultural expert, joins us on the program. Mr. Yogendra Kapoor, senior economist, also with us on the show. Dr. Sharat Kohli, senior economist, also with us on this all-illuminative panel. Dr. Kohli, I'll begin with you. Well, there are a million ways, to break an egg, and perhaps only a single one to make an omelette. But when it comes to baking eggs, we must realize that the farmers have their own perception. India is a country which still has to achieve that status of, a complete economy, of a grown economy, of a developed economy. There are constraints at hand as well. In the interim budget as well, Nirmala Sitharaman pointed out to an increase in capex. A lot of these farmers also want that the MSP should be given a legal status backed by the funds of or the coffers of the government. This obviously is going to be a problem. What do you recommend? What do you suggest is the way out of this imbroglio, if I can call it that, which has existed for almost 4 years now?
Well, good evening, Vineet, and good evening to all the viewers of NewsX. I have a feeling I was looking at the list of demands. I just keep scrolling the demands again and again. Not that I forget them, but when I just scroll, maybe I get some new idea. And I also want to see as to how realistic these demands are. Well, I must say here that some of the demands, I think the farmer unions or the farmer organizations, they must be having in mind. Then let us ask for sun and we'll get a moon. Some of the demands are like that, if not all of them. Well, MSP legislation, I think the country's balance sheet as of now, the fiscal constraints are definitely there. 10,000 rupees pension, I feel, I think it doesn't seem feasible as of now. This is one of those demands which I feel which is going to be very difficult, because to identify farmers and to be giving 10,000 rupees, because even the best of the pension schemes in the country like Atal Pension Yojana and NPS, they make people invest and then you get the return. And as far as the pensions of the government employees are concerned, they all talked about the OPS and the NPS. If you remember, I remember your channel has discussed a lot. Even that is aimed at reducing the fiscal pressure, the fiscal strain because of these pensions going. So I think pension for me, I think that looks very difficult, because PM Kisan Nidhi, I thought the ministers who are doing the talking in Chandigarh, I'm sure they must have said that PM Kisan Nidhi is a kind of pension. We are doing 2,000 rupees in every 4 months, 6,000 rupees per annum. We may look at the next budget in July when the government comes back to power. We might increase this limit and so on. So it will be pretty much, like if not 10,000 rupees a month, which is a lakh and 20,000 rupees per annum, but some kind of, step in that direction. I personally feel, I was talking at Uday's show yesterday, that after all, it's a matter of profits. It's not a matter of MSP. Imagine if MSP is 20 rupees, I'm taking an example for something, and farmer ends up spending 18 rupees. Now, I would like viewers to understand this example. So he's saving 2 rupees per kilo or whatever. Now, suppose MSP gets revised to 30 rupees. And cost also goes up to, let's say, 28 or 27 rupees. So effectively, the profit in hand for a farmer is the same. So my suggestion here, which I made yesterday also, was that I would like to reiterate, because there was a lot of logic, that I think profit maximization should be the goal instead of price maximization. Although somebody can argue and say that, profit maximization is a factor of price maximization, or vice versa, whatever you want to call it, because there are only two ways you can increase the profit. Either you increase your revenue or you reduce your cost. There is only two ways you can do it. So I thought cost saving and, some kind of innovation which is required. So my second suggestion would be, so first suggestion is that focus should be on profit maximization, not revenue maximization. If little bit of revenue maximization is required, I'm fine with that. But then basically for profit maximization, Vineet, would also mean cost reduction. And when I say cost reduction, I'm going to make a very important point here. The people in between, there's a long supply chain. From the time I was Googling out, and I found that 2 rupees worth of tomatoes, they reach the hands of the consumers at 60 rupees, 70 rupees, 80 rupees. So who's taking the cream out of it? I mean, then I followed the trail, Vineet. I said the farmer took it to a mandi, and there was an aarti in mandi. That aarti, immediately he bought it at 2 rupees, and the price was 10 rupees. Thereafter, there was a second aarti, a major, a sub aarti. The price went up to 20 rupees. Then it went to a wholesaler. Then there was logistic cost added. Then it reached, and finally, by the time the retailer dispenses to the consumer, price reach 60, 70 rupees. So I think if the focus can be on reducing this supply chain management, or can I call it in layman's word, knocking out the middlemen, reducing them substantially. Why can't the farmer directly go and sell? If not directly, maybe one channel at the most, not more than one channel, because more the channels, more profit absorption happens. So that's my second very strong suggestion. And my third suggestion in the first part of what I have to say here, before you go to other panel speakers, is there is technology required, to bring farmers' output up, to increase productivity, to increase intensity of the crops, to bring in new crops, to make them move to commercial crops, more profitable crops. I do not see, Vineet, at this point of time, a lot of startups walking into the arena of agriculture. Out of the 100,000 plus startups registered with Startup India, I don't see many of them inclined towards agriculture. So I think what government can do is probably offer some kind of incentive for the startups who want to join agriculture. If these youngsters, they get connected to farmer, because we should not forget that, with due respect to farming community, that farming community hasn't gone to public schools. They haven't gone to, Xavier's College or whatever. They have studied, or some of them have not studied at all. So they do not have access to that technology. They probably run out of ideas. They are so busy in their grind, And the last suggestion I have in this round is that I think reduction in the number of people involved in farming, because there is disguised unemployment. It's 2-acre plot, a 2-acre farm, which can be easily done by 2 people. I saw 7 people working in it. So obviously, your income gets divided between 7 people. If there is a father, his brother, his sons, there were a total of 7 people. This is a real life example. I went to Bulandshahr and I saw this over there. So I think reduction in the labor and making that sufficient amount of people are working, matching the output. So I think these are the suggestions. All these suggestions, Vineet, are aimed towards profit maximization. So I feel I'm looking for a new acronym for MSP. Shall we call it as maximum, S something profits. So maximization of profit should be the catchword, rather than calling it as MSP, because this whole MSP business is getting messy. It is becoming harder for the government to accept. It is becoming harder for the farmers to survive. So both ways, there's a catch-22 situation which is compelling these circumstances. So I think profit maximization is my biggest suggestion, Vineet, which I would like to make on your show. And I hope somebody listening to the show can probably start working on it. I'm willing to volunteer. If somebody wants, I am, besides being an economist, I'm a chartered accountant as well. So is Yogender sitting on the panel. We know how to figure out costs. We know how to reduce the cost. We know how to save the cost. So my suggestion here is profit maximization instead of minimum support price. Vineet.
Dr. Kohli, you want to respond to what was said? Of course, your points, some of them did echo well with Indra. To the others, he said that it's not only about profit, it's also about, a drastic change which has been pending for the past 7 decades.
You see, Vineet, why I spoke about profits is I would just like to clarify, because farming per se, as Yogender said as well, per se is not considered as a very profitable venture unless you've got a 200 biga farm. You're probably cultivating dry fruits and so and so. Most of the farmers are small farmers. An acre or 2, probably a biga or a biga or 2. So when most of the farmers are small, comes under radar. I mean, you're not able to make profit because whatever you produce, barely sells, and you're just able to garner enough funds to make you survive. It's just roti, kapda, makan. That's it. Makan, maybe makan, not even makan in some cases. So agriculture per se, Vineet, is not a profit-making occupation. Having said that, as they say, exception proves the rule. It is not uniformly applicable for all the farmers. I'm sure there are a lot of prosperous farmers also. But what those farmers have in common is they are big farmers. So unless you are a big farmer, a small farmer will only get a very small profit if he does get. Obviously, they are surviving somehow. The point I'm trying to make here is that as far as the government is concerned, if you see from 2014 to 2024, the steps which government has taken, the steps may have been scattered. I agree with Inder that subsidies were given, PM Kisan Nidhi came, agriculture infrastructure was built, warehouses were built, E-NAM as it is called, the e-marketing of agriculture produce was started. So many things have been started. Some food processing initiatives have been undertaken, although they are very, very marginal. They fall much short of what could have been done probably. But the fact of the matter is that whatever the government has done, because to make the farmers agree to something, I think both sides will have to go with a flexi approach. But right now, what I am witnessing, because 3 rounds of talks have already happened. From what, although none of us were part of those talks, but from what I can feel, the way the stalemate is, that they are not willing to relent. So here comes that is why I spoke of intention. If the farmers are able to gauge the intention of the government, I think that is going to be the only point of convergence, because otherwise, to give a tick mark to all these demands, Vineet, for me, I think that looks very, very difficult as of now. So, I'm sorry, I'm sounding very pessimistic, but then the demands, fiscally speaking, and policy-wise, at this point of time when elections are around the corner, just a couple of months ago, the parliament has been adjourned, sine die. I don't think there's going to be another parliament session, unless, of course, there's a special parliament session called for making a law and so on and so forth. I feel that the best government can do is make a committee. Now the question comes, committees get made, they meet a lot of times, but nothing comes out. Where do the committees head to? So there is some deficiency at the farmers' end as well. That deficiency is that I have observed there are multiple farmers' union. When this whole protest started, the Ticket and company, they did not join. Later on, he said, yes, I'm willing to join if something wrong is done. So I do not see the kind of unity. So what the government feels is that this is a very scattered effort. This is a very scattered Andolan. Few people, and we should not forget the politicization of the whole thing. There is a certain degree of politics, because I saw a Range Rover in farmers' protest. I saw a Mercedes in farmers' protest. So this clearly smells of politicization. So politicization, I feel, it discourages government. That if there is a political force behind it trying to fulfill their political agenda, then we rather not agree. So there is a very bad mix happening. Although the farmers keep saying there is no politics, there is no politician with us, and the politicians also keep harping that we are not with the farmer, we are just fighting for their rights. But the fact of the matter is that there is some degree of political. And how do I say there is politicization? Because of the timing. Because 2020, 21, this protest happened. Now we are into 24, just couple of months before the election. So the timings clearly indicate that there was some political force which was put behind these farmers. Chalo bhai, kar do, ab kuch kar do. Ab to bas election hai, vote chahiye, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going into politics. So I feel that if farmers are able to assess the intent of the government, they will have to see, if farmers have to bulge, they will have to bulge on the intent of the government. Ke bhai, hum aapke liye karna chahte hain. It is not that government has not done anything. In 10 years, this is, the GYAN, GYAN, the 4 factors which Prime Minister has spelled out. The Garib, the youth, the Annadata. He said, for me, these are only the 4 castes. I don't want to focus on any other caste. So I think the intentions are very clearly spelled out. Now, obviously, the intentions have to convert into action as well. I completely agree with that. So therefore, my thought is that both the parties will have to bulge. If farmers just want a tick mark to the box, it's my way or highway. Well, they are already on the highway, by the way. I think nothing is going to come out. There will just be use of force, tear gas, and we are going to see this chaos just go on and on. Similarly, I think government must promise some kind of action in a time-bound plan. So what some of the government sources were saying, I'm not sure if I have heard that correctly, because you're a media agency, you would, I beg your pardon. What they were saying is that farm unions are very, very scattered in their opinion. Nobody came forward to discuss what happened in 2021. Nobody authentic. So if we do something, maybe some other union may be against it. So I feel there is a need for a unified voice where talking can be done on very, very straight terms. So both parties will have to bulge. A situation is midway, we need. And I think the farmers, I wonder if they're watching, if some of the farmer representative is watching your show. So I think our message to them is that please do not go by the tick boxes. Please bulge, please understand the intent of the government. And the message for the government is that please, if the farmers have come back again, obviously they are in pain. Obviously there is a strain on their finances, their own economy. is in trouble.
Dr. Kohli,
there is some trouble out there because
Yes.
Yeah,
Vinny,
Dr.
can I
Kohli,
just
yeah,
answer
yeah,
that?
quick,
Propaganda.
well
Thank
spoken.
you.
And unfortunately, we have run out of time. On that note, we're going to dip into a short break. Would like to thank all my guests for being a part of this conversation. We'll be right back.